to, and it's being recorded. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Power Hour. I'm subbing for Katrina, who's not able to be with us today. So I hope I do everything the right way. But I'm very excited to be here, and it's a fabulous subject. I'm joined by Sharon Francisco. Thank you, Sharon, for joining us again.
Thank you for inviting me, Deb. I'm excited about it.
There's Cecile. I haven't seen you in ages, Cecile. Good to see you.
I know. It's good to see you too, Deb.
Yeah, lovely. All right, we've got a fabulous subject that we're going to cover today. And I actually said to Sharon when we were preparing for this, I said, if we only got 1 hour to talk about this, I reckon I could talk about this all day. So it's going to be around, the topic is, what would you tell your younger self about starting a business? And I'll just put a bit of context around this. It is what mistakes, so if you're an experienced bookkeeper, what mistakes did you make when you started your business, and how can people who are thinking about starting their business avoid some of those mistakes? In other words, if you were starting all over again, what would you do differently? What mistakes did you make? What things did you discover that you thought, if I had have known that 12 months ago, my life would have been so much easier and smoother? So Sharon and I are going to unpack this big topic, and we're going to enjoy doing that as well. But feel free to contribute, unmute yourself. It's really just a conversation. It's not training or anything like that. We're all just going to share our own insights in what we would tell our younger selves to. And for those people that are watching, welcome in Facebook land, by the way. If you're watching in Facebook land, Lou, you'll be monitoring the any comments that are there as well. You can direct me to that. Thank you very much. But feel free to, unmute yourself and show your videos. So, Sharon, how about if we start with you? You've got, you're part of the Pure Bookkeeping community. You're running a mentoring business now. You've learnt a lot over the years. You've got a wealth of experience, not just in the bookkeeping industry. What would you say to your younger self when you were first starting out?
Now, I've got a list of things here to talk about, but I think when you ask me that question, it's like not to be so scared, not to feel like I have to know the answers, or I think just not being scared about what people, I think we were talking about this before, what people will think, or what I don't know yet, or just all those, like, the things that we say in our heads that prevent us from taking action. If that's like working in a full-time job and saying, well, am I brave enough to step into a business or even start part-time, all that self-chatter, to not allow that to hold me back. Definitely, that would be it. I know when I first went into business, I grew up in a family business, and we first bought a business when I was 22. And there was 4 of us in that business, and we all knew like a lot about businesses. We'd come from growing up in a business families, so we knew a lot about business, and we were quite, I felt, savvy about that. But we ran that business for the first 12 months just on a wing and a prayer, I think, and we did well. Like, it was great. It was a furniture and interior design store, and I studied interior design, which was way out of my comfort zone, to make sure that I could quote with curtains and things like that. And after 12 months, we got somebody in to help us, and they were able to tell us, the areas that we weren't focusing on that we needed to be, that whole old classic of working on the business and not in the business. And within 12 months of working with that person, we were able to increase our turnover by 300% and still maintained our profit margins. So that was just looking through the filter of somebody that was making us do the things that we didn't really want to do, because we wanted to serve the customers, we wanted to make the orders, we wanted to do the curtains, we wanted to do the in the business stuff, because we thought that's where the money is. But he was saying, hey, you should be doing this, this, and this. It's like, oh man, that sounds a bit boring. Like, really? We've got to go and do systems. We've got to go set up a system for how. I remember, I mean, this was a long time ago, so excuse the age that it sounds like, but we had a system to work the photocopier. Like, we had every morning to turn it on to warm it up. Like, there was a little step-by-step system. So when we employed people, they knew how to, so it wasn't taking our time to teach them how to do it. So all those little things that seemed quite laborious at the time made a massive difference to our bottom line. So yeah, I think probably those two things are probably pretty front of mind for me with that question. Don't be so frightened. Don't feel like you have to know the answers, and be willing to invite somebody into your business that can help you work on the business.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's great advice. And something you touched on there was stepping out of your comfort zone, which is obviously very uncomfortable at first. And something that, you know, my background was always in finance and bookkeeping and accounts payable and things like that from when I left school. But it was always as an employee. And you've got the, you know, the security blanket. There might be an in-house accountant, which I often, in some of the businesses I've worked with, there was an in-house accountant. So if I didn't know the answer, there's the accountant and he'll give me the answer. And you're not fully responsible. You take responsibility for your little area seriously, of course, but you know there's always a fallback. There's that security blanket. And the first step of stepping out, so if anyone's actually either here or watching in Facebook land, if you're contemplating starting out, it can be a scary thing, especially if you have had experience as an employee. And there's ways of managing that. And the way I did it was I kept because it was a part-time job. My last job was a part-time job. And I started to tell people that I knew that I was starting my own business. So I then worked nights and weekends because I actually didn't know if I was good enough. I didn't know if it was going to work. It was scary, but I managed that fear. You mentioned about being scared about that. I managed the risk by keeping my day job, just in case it didn't work. I had that little security blanket, and then I'd work nights and weekends. And after a year, I could see that it was working and that I was able to solve some of the problems and what have you. But stepping out of the comfort zone, in the next big step for me was when I was recruiting, because I kind of I was able to work out what I didn't know and things like that. And then I started working with Peter Cook. You also mentioned, you know, having someone on your team that you can trust, that is a trusted advisor, whether that's a family member, a friend, a dear friend that understands your goals and where you're heading and things like that. And Peter, over the years, the 10 years that I worked with him as a business coach, he said he made it his job to take me out of my comfort zone as often as possible. And it was a terrifying journey. It was like me hanging on to a roller coaster ride, really. It was just, and I'm going like this and like that. And it was terrifying a lot of the time, but liberating. So I would say to my younger self, grasp the fear. Don't run away from it. So when you feel the fear, run towards it, because if you run away from it, you're going to stay small in personal growth, in professional growth, in experiences. If you stay within your comfort zone, that might feel comfortable, but it's limiting, it's containing. And I can tell you now, and I tell my younger self, that it will be okay. There will be scary, you'll be scared to pieces, but nothing bad will happen. And when I say nothing bad will happen, I mean really bad. I made mistakes, I made lots of mistakes, but nothing really bad happened from those mistakes. And I learned a lot from it. So that was an important thing to me.
Yeah. So they say it's important what we say to ourselves, about ourselves, when we're by ourselves. That's what really matters.
Yeah.
So if I was to ask you, Deb, like, you know, like I even got like a little rise in my tummy when you said to run towards the fear, because I know we're all the same, right? Because we always look at other people, like people look at you and say, oh, you've built that bookkeeping business and you've got this whole thing, and like we all compare. We look at other people and go, I could never be like that, or how did she get there, or how did he get there? What do you reckon your strategy or technique, you know, when you were by yourself with your thoughts and what you were thinking and you had that fear come up, how do you reckon that, what did you do to get through that fear, to be able to push through it, do you think?
I remember actually quite vividly having to, you're talking, what do you say to yourself? And let's say one example was I was terrified about having a conversation with clients about getting paid. I mean, why does it? And so I would avoid doing it, and therefore I wouldn't get paid. So this caused obviously cash flow problems. So I was avoiding the very thing that I should have been doing. And what I started to recognize was the feeling I got when I felt fearful. And it is like in the pit of your stomach, as you mentioned, Sharon. It's like butterflies in the pit of your stomach. It's actually a physiological thing that happens to your nervous system when you experience fear. And it's goes back to the caveman era when they used to do the flight or fight thing. And so if there was a big Tyrannosaurus coming to eat the caveman, whatever it was, the blood pressure would rise, the adrenaline would kick in, they'd sweat, all the energy would go into the leg muscles so that they could run either towards this beast or away from it. And that physiological thing is still in us as humans. But we get this when we feel fear, we get this flight or fight thing going on. And what I started to do was change my relationship with that. So when I felt the fear, my initial and immediate reaction was run. Don't talk to that client. He'll get angry. Don't do that. All these things. Don't. That's too scary. So run away from it. But what I changed was the message that I was giving myself and recognizing this fear. And I said, I recognize these physiological things that are going on in my body. And I just said, this is exciting. I just made it, instead of being fearful, I said, how exciting. This is another new thing that I can do. This is another way to step out of my comfort zone. And so the minute, what I used to do was delay, procrastinate doing the thing that I was fearful of. And it never went away, and it would wake me up at night, and you lose sleep over it and all that sort of thing, until I finally had that conversation that I needed to have with that client. And so the outcome was still the same. He didn't get angry or whatever, and I just dealt with the issue and then moved on. But I wasted so much energy over sometimes weeks avoiding the fear that I had, of avoiding this situation because of the fear that I had. And so I decided that was not really helpful for me to be behaving like that. So I changed the story and I said, this is exciting. This is another opportunity. So the second I felt fearful, I went, right, I'm picking up that phone and I'm just going to get this, because, Deb, in 3 weeks' time, you're going to pick up that phone. So you may as well do it now. And so I stepped into that, and I could visualize myself stepping into the fear. You're muted, Sharon.
Back. Can you hear me? Sorry about
Yes.
that. Sorry about, I got a call before. Sorry about that interruption. Okay. I feel like it's one thing to say that, but it's like what's the catalyst to be able to do that? Like, it's like, how can we put ourselves into a situation to take that to the next level? And we were talking before about surrounding ourselves with the people that are going to help us step into that fear and to go, yeah, I'm going to be willing to do that. And I know you've sort of referenced having Peter as your coach, but also to have the communities to be able to help back that up, and also committing to learning and education. So educating yourself on, okay, I've got that fear, what is that all about, and understanding that a little bit deeper. One of my clients who was here last week but not this week, Sandra, sent me a podcast recording of Ash Barty's coach, and so apparently she used to have a lot of these issues around self-talk that wasn't so good, and she got herself a coach back in, I think they said 2017 they started working together, and his name is Ben Crow, and there's an interview on the ABC about this coach, and he's a mindset coach and talks about how you can play tricks on your mind to help you get over that fear. So I think one thing is education, isn't it? Like, you were getting education from Pete to learn how to push through that fear and to pick up the phone. I know for me, I can't do this by myself. I need to have that education. I need to be reading and listening. I mean, just before this webinar, Facebook Live, I was listening to that podcast as I was working away. So my information diet is really important to be able to help me get through that fear. Because if I allowed myself to listen to that fear, it kind of overcomes you, doesn't it? It's really hard to fight it.
Absolutely. And you're spot on with the educating yourself. And I've always had a hunger I've read personal development books since I was a teenager. Just had this hunger and thirst for knowledge, and I knew that I didn't know everything, and so some other people do. And I would tap into that kind of stuff all the time. And I think I was talking to actually one of our licensees recently, and you make a really important point about education. And she said that she spends tens of thousands of dollars a year on her personal and professional development. And that is not your CPD hours. This is outside of that. That's what's going on in her mind and mindset, and how to run a business more professionally and things like that. That would be something I would say that I think a lot of people these days, I guess, know that this is important. But if you're talking to your younger self, I would be emphasizing that you need to spend time not just doing the work. It's actually, you talked before, Sharon, about working on your business and in your business, and the coach, the person that came on in your earlier business that guided you through that. Pete did the same for me. Leadership, management, you've got to be, where's your vision? All of those things were very foreign to me. I didn't think about vision and that until I started my business, really. And I think to tap into that, to spend time thinking about your vision, we always seem to come back to this so often, because it's just part of what it is to run a successful business, and whatever that means for you, to grow a business that you love. You don't know everything right from the start. You don't even know what you don't know. So you've got to learn from someone, learn from a coach, learn from a mentor, be open to ideas. Don't be closed. This is what I would say to my younger self. Don't be closed, be open. You don't know everything. And there are a lot of people out there that know a whole bunch of stuff so why reinvent the wheel? We talk about this with the Pure Bookkeeping system as well. Why reinvent the wheel? There's already been pain and suffering worked through and things like that. It's the same with and when you're talking about personal development, you can't do that just on your own. You've got to get insights from other people, other books, other friends, other family, other mentors that will notice something about you and say something, or you'll read a book or listen to a podcast. The podcasts are awesome.
Oh, yeah, there's so many good things out there, isn't there? But I think the vision is the thing that, it seems to be the hardest for us, doesn't it, to figure out what is it that I really want. But that's the very thing that I remember with that business coach that we worked with when I was 22. He kept asking me, what is it? What is it that you want? I'm like, I don't know. And the thing that I came up with was so clear. And I think this is why it's so important to have that vision, is that that's what will get you to pick up the phone. That's what will get you to push through the fear. And the clearer that vision is, the more you don't even really have to believe that you can get it. It's just like, it can be just somewhere in the future where you think, yeah, I'd like that. I don't know how, and you don't even have to know the how now. You just put it there and go, you know what, I want X, Y, Z. It might be, for me at the moment, it's a tree house on a mountain. I don't know how I'm going to do that, Deb. I've got this vision. And do you know, everywhere around me, when I wake up in the morning, I've printed off the picture of this beautiful tree house that I wake up and I look at every morning. On my screensaver, I've got, and I haven't even really consciously done that. I've just like, yeah, this is really cool. This is what I want. So I don't know how that's going to all work, but, and I booked a holiday just recently, a week away to a treehouse. And I didn't even consciously do that. Like it's just, that's something that I'm thinking, you know, one day I'd like to have a treehouse, and I'd love to be able to run women's circles and do all this fun sort of stuff together with women to help them with confidence and growing. I don't even know what that looks like at the moment, but I know that's a nice little vision that I've got sometime in the future that'll get me through doing things that bring up fear in me. I was just saying to you before, I've been invited to speak at 3 different events in front of 20 to 30 accounting firms. The fear that comes up in me when I think about that is like, but I know my vision, and it's not just the treehouse, but the vision of what I'm after is going to help propel me onto that stage. It's going to help me not only get on that stage, it's going to help me practice. It's going to help me find a good content, and I'm going to do that over and over, and I'm going to practice in front of my partner and practice in front of you, probably, Deb, just to get that confidence to be able to do that. So I think it's really, it's a really important thing to find out, what is this all about? Why am I building this business? Why do I want to scale?
Yes.
And we're talking,
no, you go.
Oh, we're just talking before about, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Pareto's 80-20 rule. And he talks about 80%, and I think we've all heard of that before, but 80% of our outcomes or results come from 20% of the work. And I think it's identifying that 20% that's really important. And generally we find that 20% is on the business stuff. And that's the hardest thing to put time aside for, especially now when everyone's just so busy. It's finding what that 20% is that's going to make the difference in your business to be able to grow it. I think, if I was to tell my younger self something, it would be, what is that 20% that I need to be focusing on to be able to grow the business away from me? Yes.
And that's definitely, I think you make some really good points there with the vision. And many of you know initially I didn't have any big vision. My vision in the first 12 months of starting my business was to replace my income of the part-time job that I had. And then that was it. I did that in around about that amount of time. And then I was just growing my business. And then I met Peter Cook, and he said, what's your vision? And I tell you what, it took a lot of work for him to drag something out of me. And he said, because he'd say, but that's not a 10-year vision. You want to, turn over this amount of money. But why do you want to do that? What's the da-da-da? And my big vision, it just came out of me. He was working and talking and da-da-da and creating, because I was such kind of a closed entity. It was like, that's 10 years. Who knows? I don't know. How can you look that far ahead? I don't want to do that. It's too scary. And I might get it wrong anyway. What if I say something and I get it wrong? No, I won't do that. But anyway, he dragged out of me that I said, all right, I just went like that. And I said, here's a big one. I want to replace my husband's income in 10 years. And he went, awesome. That is an awesome goal. And I went, exactly the same as you, Sharon. What? This is, did I actually say that?
Say that.
Can I take that back? I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. What if it's not? What if I fail? That's scary, you know, and we often, and this isn't about goal setting, but if I was to talk to my younger self, and I'm thankful really that my younger self did have Peter Cook in my world, and he was the one that shook my tree, and he kept making me feel uncomfortable and how to get me out of my comfort zone and testing me and pushing me out of that and all these sorts of things all the way along. But if I was to give advice to anyone starting out, I would say you've got to carve out that time. It's not just about the work that you're doing. It's not just about that billable hours and how much work you're actually doing. That you need to carve out at least some time to think about where do you want to be in 10 years' time and why? Why do you want that? What is that going to do for you? Because, as you said, Sharon, that was a thing that kept me stepping out of my comfort zone. It kept me making those calls when I didn't want to. It kept me meeting with accountants when I didn't want to. It kept me doing a lot of things that I didn't want to do because I just kept looking up at the vision on my vision board to replace my husband's income. And it's integral to, I think, everyone's success to have a clearly defined vision that's as padded out as you can possibly be. And Sharon, as you said, you've got a picture on the wall, you've booked a holiday, you've got something on your screensaver. It goes down into your DNA or certainly your subconscious. I don't know if it goes down into your DNA, but you know what I'm saying? It just seeps into your whole being without you even noticing it. And I think that's a really integral thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think another one for me, Deb, which I think you'll find maybe interesting, and I'll explain why. I wish that I learned how to sell face-to-face earlier. Now, I know my expertise is in sales, and that took ages for me to even get that out of my mouth, because I feel like, who am I to say I'm an expert at sales? And the reason why I wish that I got better at sales face-to-face earlier was because you can't build a business without learning how to sell, right? Sales and making sales is part of growing businesses. So I think I was unconscious competent at selling when I was younger, when we first bought a business. And I feel like I remember the coach that we had actually took, like, I was 10 years to, my business partner used to be out the back doing, you know, the books once a week, and I used to be out on the floor in this furniture shop for a week, and then we'd swap around, and I'd feel like vomiting when I had to go back out the back and work on my job. I just didn't know what I was doing. It was just so overwhelming for me. And the coach said, what is she doing out there? Get her on the floor. And Tanya said, yay, I'm happy to be out the back, because she didn't want to talk to anyone anyway. So she was happy doing the books, got me out on the floor, which was where I was happy talking to people. The thing that I didn't know then, and I know there's probably at least one person on the call today that is probably similar to this, is I was good at sales, but I didn't know why. I didn't understand what I was doing to make the conversions. I was unconscious competent in my skills. So I wish that I actually had help from somebody, or read more, or learnt more about what is it that makes a person have the skills of sales? What is it that gets people to ultimately buy your service or product? So I definitely would have probably given myself more time to educate myself on face-to-face selling and understanding what it is that made people buy from me, because I didn't really know what that was.
And I think that's part of doing the deep thinking, really, about things other than the work, you know, where that's discovering something that's inside of you and untangling that to get a little bit more clarity around that skill set and why it is, you know, why is it that I'm afraid of talking to people about getting paid and things like that. That was a lot of the work that Pete did with me in the first couple of years. Why I had these ideas in my head about what was a truth, and it wasn't a truth at all. It was just ideas that I had in my head. We're going to open up the floor. Oh, Tanya, did you post? Oh, Robin, Robin, would you like to unmute yourself and chat with us about what you just posted? Where are you? There you go.
Yes,
You're muted.
You're muted, Robin. Here she is.
There we go. Hello.
There we go.
Yeah, I would tell my younger self to invest in myself, because I think when, like I've done bookkeeping for years and years, but I was always happy to go, school fees, sure, pay them, you know, like my husband wanted to do something, sure, like back him. But I was more sort of standing back going, I'll do with what I can. that sort of attitude. And it wasn't until I actually decided that I wanted to, make some money that I went, I want a really good computer. I'm going to go and buy that. And pure bookkeeping was one of those big things that I decided that, no, I'm going to spend money on that. Do it. And if I had have done that earlier, I would have made more money earlier.
Yeah. So what do you remember a time where that the switch flipped for you? Was it a moment?
I think my kids just got to an age where I felt like they just got to an age where I felt like now it's my turn. Yeah. And I certainly could have done that earlier and still had that, that great balance and been there for them and everything. But I sort of more, what am I trying to say? I was just going along doing, coasting along. I was just coasting. I wasn't trying to build anything, grow anything. I was just, whatever came. So,
yes.
And I think it's really hard to, and I think particularly with bookkeeping, like my husband's a music teacher. So of course, like when he said, I want to have a music school, it's like, oh, it's a passion, but no, nobody thinks about bookkeeping as being a passion. And so it's really hard to go, but this is what I'm passionate about. But it's more than that. It's the connection with people. It's helping people in business. It's, having your own business. There is a passion involved in it. Maybe other people just don't really understand that.
Yeah, and I think they don't understand it because they have a view, as I had when I started bookkeeping, that I was just a bookkeeper or just doing bookkeeping. And it was only when it was in the early days actually of working with Peter Cook that he helped me realize that bookkeeping was the tool I was using, but what I'm doing is actually empowering business owners around their finances.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, that was a pivotal moment for me when I realized in terms of a burn in my belly, that's why I love doing what I'm doing. I wasn't able to articulate it before then. I just kept saying, I'm a bookkeeper, whatever. And people that aren't bookkeeping, that don't see the benefits, the actual, you see a client, and I've seen you post on Facebook, Robin, about flowers or chocolates that your client, and the thank you and all it, and everyone would probably have stories about that as well. It's those moments because that you are making a difference. Each one of you bookkeepers are making a difference in the world of every client that you're touching, really.
Yeah, but I think it's really hard. It almost feels selfish to say, okay, now I want to spend some money on me. Like I want to do this business. I want to spend money on me, and I want to do that. It's like you're being frivolous. But you do it for everybody else. Like I said, you know, I was quite happy to pay school fees and quite happy to, you know, back anybody else doing what they wanted to do. And I think you just need to back yourself as well and say, well, this is what I really want to do. And so I'm going to get those tools that I need to do that. And like you were talking about professional development, like spend money on that, spend money on, you know, a good computer, the best scanner that you can get, you know, those tools that we need. I say that I'm very across my numbers, and so I don't spend money on anything I don't need to. I don't mean go out and just blow money everywhere, but just, yeah, make sure that the money that you're earning, invest some of it back into yourself.
Yeah, and I would also, that touches on the point that I made before. It's not just invest money in yourself, it's invest time in yourself.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what I talked about before, and Sharon talked about before, carve out, you know, at least an hour a week. An hour's not enough, but at least an hour a week to devote to yourself, to expanding your mind, professionally and personally. Listen to a podcast. I used to think when Pete said, Deb, you need to be spending time just, you know, each week thinking about your vision. What else do you want to bring into your world and all this sort of thing? And I kind of felt guilty because I was spending money, not spending time. It didn't even cost anything. It was just spending time thinking. It felt very indulgent. I've kind of felt guilty when I first did that. No, I can't be just sitting thinking about my vision and sitting on a beach or sitting in a cafe or in somewhere nice like that and thinking about me and what I want. It felt very indulgent.
But if it was one of your friends, you'd say, that's what you must do that.
Yeah. Yes. Why is that? What is that?
I don't know. This is what we do.
Hi, Christy. Good to see you. Do you
Hello.
want to add anything to our conversation here about what would you say to your younger self?
Yes, to 100% invest in yourself from the beginning. Business ownership is lonely, it's daunting, and you know, we provide as bookkeepers and accountants a lot of support to other business owners, but we don't in turn take that for ourselves. We don't tend to have a bookkeeper. We might have a working relationship with an accountant, but we don't have that other voice to bounce things off that we are for our clients. And you know, one of my coaches says that you know, there's no such problems as problems in your business, it's personal problems showing up in your business. And so doing that work on yourself brings a better version of you into your workday. And whether that's sitting down for your coffee instead of taking it away and drinking it at your desk, whatever it is, to give yourself that moment. And as you say, Debbie, of really scheduling time, and it's sort of like having an AGM with yourself as well, just having that CEO's meeting or something to value what you bring to your business, and then you can serve your clients better.
That you make a really good point there, Christy, and something I discovered, I said a couple of times that I used to be afraid to ask people, you know, if they weren't paying me, I'd go, oh, I don't want to ring them and ask them. But the interesting thing about that is what I observed in myself once I started going, why are you like that? Why you've done the work? Why aren't you getting, you know, why don't you do that? And when I again spent time thinking about that, I realized that if even in my personal life, if I bought a present, let's say for on behalf of the family, I never asked the family for money. If they paid me, they paid me. If they didn't, they didn't. And I would never say, you haven't given me that $50, you know, or something like that. I just go, no, I'm not. And so that very thing that I did in my personal life, it was this big in my business. Like it might have been $50 back there, but it's thousands of dollars over in my business. So that baggage, whatever it is, that's what I discovered, that the baggage that I carried, all the little things that I did or thought were true and all that sort of thing, they just get magnified in your business. And unless you deal with that, which is probably another reason, now that I think about it, why, Sharon, you asked before what triggered you to step towards that fear, was because this baggage that I had brought in from my personal life was going to overwhelm my business and I wouldn't achieve my vision. So it was like that. I just had to put my big girl pants on and get this done, kind of thing. It's a very good observation, Christy. Thank you for that. Would anyone else like to add any insights or comments? Linda, you made a comment, you agreed with Robin. Do you want to unmute yourself and show us your lovely face there? I'm sure you're there. You're still there.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I can completely relate to what Robin was saying. It's not until the last couple of years that I've actually done the same thing, where I'm reinvesting. My kids, they needed, they needed the up-to-date stuff, and I was trying to help them with that, getting tutors and all that sort of thing. And then here I am working on a computer that's 7 years old, and screens, small. When I say small screens, it's all first world problems, isn't it? But now it's like, you know what? No, I've upgraded my computer. I have one of my passions is to do training, software training. I've now got a screen, a whiteboard screen, electronic one, where I can do business meetings with people and write my notes up, email those notes to the client straight from the whiteboard. I can just start getting my training notes that I've spent years getting together and pull them into a training schedule, so I can now start to offer training to clients. So and like you say, I haven't gone mental, but I've thought, no, you know what? I actually need bigger screens. I need to have a computer that is fast, that doesn't take me time to go make a coffee in the morning to start up and that sort of thing.
Yes.
The other thing too, which I'm now doing, is I'm now finding the value in, like you say, investing back into myself. That is, getting on these calls. I have got a business coach that comes in and has meetings with me once a month. I'm also getting my certifications and all that sort of thing, just so that I feel a lot more professional. Yeah. So yes, I know it's good. I do. That's where I agree. For many years, I've been doing this for years, and for many years, like you say, I've made do. And I think now, when I start to take myself, what's the word? Like I'm now taking myself.
Put yourself first.
Yes, yeah. If I'm not going to go, hey, you know what, I deserve this, then I guess the universe isn't going to think that either. You know what I mean? So I need to actually start understanding that, you know what, I have got a lot to offer, because there's a lot of that confidence stuff that comes with it as well. Because it can change the way you appear to people. So, I've got a lot to offer to businesses, and I need to tell myself that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that have got a lot to offer to me. Like you were saying, stay open. There's a lot of people that have a lot to offer to me that, that you're learning every day. So I'm actually pretty excited about my journey so far and what's to come.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It doesn't have to cost, does it? It doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to cost money. You can put yourself in a group like this and get fed by that. You can read, you can go to the library and get books. You can listen to YouTube stuff. Like the information diet that you've got going in your ears and in your eyes every day doesn't have to cost a cent. You can do that for yourself, which is
Well, I've been watching the book clubs that you guys are doing at the moment. I haven't had the opportunity to join yet, but what I'm doing is I've got the Audible. So I'm actually getting those books on Audible. And like you say, I am feeding myself on that information. It might be a half an hour here or a half an hour there, but it's not, I can be doing it while I'm driving or I can be doing it while I'm cooking dinner. I don't have to, I can still go about my life and still get this information in.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I was just going to say, as far, like what I was saying about it, like investing in myself and buying, you know, things for my business. Just on a practical note, when I did decide that I wanted to put money into, you know, my own business to myself, I actually nominated an amount that I was going to contribute into the, we'll say the family, like into our account that, you know, pays all the bills and things. So I set that up as a recurring transfer every week. And so anything that was left, it sounds like I'm taking the leftovers, but anything was left, I felt like that was for me to spend on my business. That was my business's money. So as that increased, I didn't feel any guilt because I was contributing. I wasn't, which I think a lot of bookkeepers do, just giving everything. I actually chose how much I was going to, you know, put in. And each year, you know, 30th of June, I have a look at how I've gone and then I reassess it and I up it and I pay even more money into that account. So I can, without any, what do you call it? I cannot feel bad, like, you know, when I go and buy something, it's with money that is actually, I've decided I will be spending on myself or my business, because I'm already allocating funds to, my family.
Yeah.
I think too that the return on investment is far greater than the financial year we spend it. You know, I've invested a lot in personal and professional development this last financial year, but it helped me add 6 figures to my bottom line from that investment. And whilst it was a big chunk, I know that all the learnings that I've taken from the last year, my theme for this year is action and implementation. So I'm going to be rolling out even more of it without having to reinvest in those products because I've got those learnings. So, you know, I think we're all astute business people with numbers, and as much as I dislike the word budget and would love to come up with a better term for it, I think it's a really good time to look at our budget. What is our forecast for our income this year, and what percentage of that are we willing to reinvest in ourselves? And whether that's in technology to increase proficiency and efficiency with, I mean, I love 3 screens, love my keyboard, all of those things, or is it directly into self? Is it to having a retreat every 6 months? Or it doesn't have to be specifically on learning, but I think if we set that at the beginning, and I love that idea, Robin, that you know what amount you want to reinvest back in your family to give you the lifestyle that you desire by owning a business, not being an employee, and then having an amount left to reinvest in your business. And yeah, I think it doesn't always have to be a self-help book or a business book or a business course. It can be lots of different things, but making that commitment at the beginning and knowing that we are worth it and we are enough. That's a biggie, I think, particularly as women. I'm sure there's some men listening in, but I think still particularly as women, we're generationally changing things, but, you know, having that self-worth and value in ourselves is taking time to organically know it. We have to really say it.
Yeah. And that's really good advice, Christy. You also said in your comments here, I am statements. Do you want to, because it had a profound impact on you, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so through one of the coaching programs that I was in, a big focus was on mindset shifts, and a really simple task that we were set was just to write an I am statement. And for me, it was I am enough. And then I expanded on it to being I am more than enough. And just that has had such a big effect on me, because, you know, I have stories and history that tells me that I potentially wasn't enough, but that's other people's stuff. That's not my stuff. So to really internally focus on it, and yeah, it's powerful and simple.
Mm.
And
I
then
love
be
affirmations.
and then be chosen as one of the top 10 bookkeepers in the Women in Finance.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you.
You
Awesome.
are.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a big believer in affirmations, and Sharon, I know you are as well.
Those, Chrissy, those I am statements are so powerful. I used to coach business coaches in Australia and London, and that was part of, it was a business coaching company that I worked for. And I would get my business coaches to write 20 and laminate them and put them in the shower. And I did it myself. Everything that I taught, I did. And I would yell them out. My kids thought I was mad. I'd yell them out while I was having a shower in the morning. I am fantastic. I am flamboyant. I can do this. And like all of them I'd read out every morning. And it's just, it feels kind of weird at the time, but it's just that it's drip feeding that all the time, isn't it? It's just being your own best friend and knowing that, you know, you're going to have tricky times. I think the hard thing is when you're going through the tricky times, I think that's what builds the fear, is when you go through those down times where you feel like, man, I'm not enough and I can't do this. And who do I think I am? You have that feeling in your tummy of like, my goodness, this is so overwhelming. I feel like I need to ask Helen Constant what she would tell her younger self. I'd be very interested to hear that. Sorry, Helen, I'll put you on the spot. You're still on mute.
Hi, everyone here. I've got different screens going around me here. It's very high tech. What would I tell my younger self? I always try and differentiate the bookkeeping from my previous business, because I've been in business since I was 18. So for those who don't know, I had a hairdressing salon. So I'm going to agree with Debbie and say I've always invested in myself. Behind me is 30 years plus of books, and, you know, because we only had books back then. Now it's, you know, most people know I listen to podcasts every single time I'm in the car, and lots of webinars while I'm working. If I'm working home, I've just got webinars in the background of, you know, they could be about meditation or, you know, mindset and everything. And all these, they're always different types of categories. Sometimes, like if I'm working on my client pricing, I'll just go and listen to Mark Wickersham in the background because that just helps. So there's always some sort of lead up to what I'm planning for that week or whichever, that I will structure that learning. I don't actually sit down and write down it all. It's what I feel like listening to, and it's generally what I'm interested or what I need to work on that week. For me, in the start of bookkeeping, I would have loved pure bookkeeping systems from the get-go, because that systemization is not my pain point, but my ditch in the road. I don't know. I just keep feeling I can't get out of that ditch because that is not 100%. And it doesn't stop things progressing, but it is my major issue, self-improvement and all that. And I'm a pretty positive person. You know, my I am statement is I'm amazing. The master of the house. I get told by my kids all the time. So it's in my head. I'm big on prepping yourself up. I don't wait for others to give me any appreciation or anything. So yeah, mine would be systemize everything before you get too big and it's too hard and you put on staff and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
We often hear licensees say, I wish I had joined 5 years ago or something like that. That's what they would have told the younger self, to join sooner or even systematize sooner, all of that. Yeah, that's awesome, Helen. Anything else you'd like to add?
Not at this stage.
Anyone else? If anyone, Jacqueline, you haven't spoken. I don't want anyone to, we've got 5 minutes or so left. If you want to talk about your insights about today's conversation, what would you tell your younger self? I think this has been awesome. So I don't want anyone to go away and not have their say, if that's what you want to do. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Write it down. Have a book or a sand pit in a sauna. Write it down, whatever it is, whether it's an idea, a goal, a win you've had, and also develop duplicatable systems. Like, I worked for one of the big 4 accounting businesses when just after I started, and when I saw pure bookkeeping systems, I went, oh my God, this is what it's been in the back of my head all the time. So do something about it. Either find somebody who's done it or do it yourself. And don't be afraid to outsource. Think about, okay, it's going to cost me $300 to get that done, but it's going to take me 4 days. Work for 4 days and pay for it. But as for pure bookkeeping systems, you can't get anything that puts everything in its place as much as what that does. And to have those systems, whether you want to be a big firm or whether you just want to be yourself, to have those systems in place is just, it's priceless.
It's integral, isn't it?
Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask a question. If you don't feel safe asking it to somebody you know, do it anonymously or something, but ask that question and get advice.
Yes. And I've just thought of something that actually was a really important thing that I didn't do, that I would tell my younger self. And it's a practical thing. And you reminded me, Jacqueline, of it. It's all about systematizing your business. And Helen, do it earlier rather than later. Much harder to do it later when you've got a lot of moving parts. One of the things that I would say, so when I started my business, I didn't think about recruiting. I didn't know if I was going to do that. I didn't even enter, I'm doing the bookkeeping. And so every client that I met, I said, hi, I'm Debbie. I'm, doing your bookkeeping now. And they're awesome, And then it was when I started working with Peter that we came up with a solution to recruit. And I went, okay, that means recruiting is okay. Now, Debbie, you need to go back to all those clients that you started 18 months, 2 years, 3 years ago, and tell them that you're no longer doing the bookkeeping for them, that you're going to be replacing yourself with another bookkeeper. And that took me 12 months to extricate myself out of their grasps, because, and we hear this all the time, the clients only love me. I can't, there's no way I could put a bookkeeper in. There's a solution for all of that, but it's right from the start this is advice to anyone starting out, or from this day forward, for any new client that you put on, whether you have intentions of putting on staff or whatever, tell them that that's what you intend to do. And because what you will do then is set the expectation that that's happening right from the start. And so then in 12 months' time, you can say, if you decide that's going to happen, you can go, I remember 12 months ago or 2 years ago, I said I was going to replace myself. Well, I found Mary and she's awesome and she's now going to take over. And so it's a much easier conversation to have if you've set that expectation up from the start. And Christy, you've said start with the end in mind. So even if you don't, my piece of advice, even if you don't think that you are going to recruit, imagine it, set up your systems as if you are, and have the conversations with every client that you put on to say that this is going to happen. If they're not going to come to you in 12 months or 2 years' time and say, hey, Deb, you said you were going to replace yourself with another bookkeeper. How come that hasn't happened yet? They're not going to say that, but it makes it easier for you, even psychologically, because we get nervous about it. We're scared. What are they going to say? Will they get angry? And all this stuff that I had to deal with. such a wasted energy and time on something that I could have dealt with right from the start. So that would be my piece of advice. Sharon, have you got one last comment that you'd like to leave everyone with as we wrap up?
I do. I've got this here. This is a really cool thing to remember. This is done by studies. So this is how we feel normally. So that normal line there. And when we feel low, we go down here and we feel like that's going to be forever. So don't make your goals or set your expectations of what you want to achieve or your visions when you're down here. And studies have shown once you're down here, when you're feeling really low and crappy, after this time could last for a few weeks or it could last for a few months. After this, there's studies that have been done that this is our normal line here, that it goes up over the normal line and we're feeling fantastic. Make your goals and your visions and where you want to go in your business here. And when you're feeling shitty, don't think about that. Just hold on to what you feel when you're up here. So this has all been from studies. So know that when you're down, you're going to come back up through that normal line and feel fantastic. And when you're feeling on fire, that's the time to look at your vision and where you want to go and what you want to do. I thought that would be a nice thing to share.
Thank you, Sharon, very much. We will wrap it up now. Thank you, everyone that contributed today. I hope you found that helpful. It's an exciting topic. We could talk about this for a long time, but I wish you well today and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks.
Bye for
See
now.
you guys. Bye.
You.